The women who struggle most in their first year of entrepreneurship aren't struggling because of strategy, marketing, or money. They are struggling because they are trying to build a CEO business with an employee identity. You leave corporate with an employee identity intact. You experience what I call the identity crisis valley. You're no longer employee, but you don't feel yet like entrepreneur. You don't become a CEO when you register your business. You become a CEO when you decide to think, act, and show up like one. Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to the Confident Alchemist podcast, where bold women take a brave leap to build businesses and lives they deserve. I'm Debbie, and today we're going to talk about something that nobody addresses before you make the leap from corporate to entrepreneurship. And it's the reason why most women struggle in their first year of business. Your identity. Here's what happens. You spend years, sometimes decades, building identity around your corporate role. You're the marketing director, the HR manager, the financial analyst, the project coordinator. That identity became so deeply embedded that you don't even realize it's there until you try to leave. And then you quit, or you're planning to quit, and suddenly you don't know who you are anymore, because the person you've been showing up every day for the last 10 years was built for someone else's organization, not for your own business. But here's what I've discovered. The women who struggle most in their first year of entrepreneurship aren't struggling because of strategy, marketing, or money. They are struggling because they are trying to build a CEO business with an employee identity. I've lived this. When I left corporate, I kept on waiting for someone to tell me what to do. I kept looking for approval before making decisions. I kept playing small because my identity was still that of employee, even though my business card said founder. It took me almost a year to realize that the biggest upgrade I need wasn't in my business strategy. It was in my identity. Today, I'm going to show you exactly how to shed your employee identity while you're still in corporate, how to think, act, and show up like a CEO from day one, the daily habits that build entrepreneurial identity, and why your current identity might be your biggest business obstacle. So let's dive into the identity upgrade that will transform your entire entrepreneurial journey. Let me start by helping you understand exactly what employee identity looks like. Because it's so deeply ingrained that most women don't even recognize it in themselves. Employee identity shows up in various specific ways. You wait for instructions before taking action. You seek approval before making decisions. You measure your worth by your job title and your salary. You believe your value comes from the organization you work for, rather from who you are. The most obvious signs of employee identity is permission seeking. In corporate, you ask permission for everything: to take time off, to implement ideas, to spend money, to change processes. It becomes so habitual that you bring it into your business. You ask permission to raise your prices. You wait for someone to tell you your idea is good enough. You hesitate to make bold decisions because you're waiting for approval that will never come. Employee identity also creates validation dependency. In corporate, your performance reviews, your promotions, and your salary increases tell you whether you are doing well or not. You become dependent on external validation to feel confident. But as an entrepreneur, there's no performance reviews. No one's going to tell you that you're doing a great job. You have to generate your own validation from within. And if you haven't developed that skill, you feel lost. Employee identity creates what I call security addiction. You become addicted to the predictability of a salary, the structure of a job description, and the safety of knowing exactly what's expected of you. When you become an entrepreneur, all of that disappears. And if your identity is built on security, uncertainty of entrepreneurship feels like an existential threat rather than an exciting opportunity. Corporate environments are hierarchical. There's always someone above you making the big decisions. Employee identity are internalized as hierarchy. You see yourself as someone who executes decisions, not as someone who makes them. But as a CEO, you are the hierarchy. You make the decisions. You set the direction. You create the vision. If your identity is that instead of an executor or then a visionary, you constantly feel out of your depth. Here's a subtle but powerful aspect of employee identity. You define your expertise narrowly based on your job description. I'm a marketing manager. Means you know marketing. But as an entrepreneur, you need to be a marketer, a salesperson, an accountant, a strategist, a leader, all at once. Employee identity resists this expansion. It says, this is not my job. But a CEO identity says, everything is my job until I can delegate it. When you leave corporate with an employee identity intact, you experience what I call the identity crisis valley. You're no longer employee, but you don't feel yet like entrepreneur. You're in a no man's land, and it's deeply uncomfortable. This is why so many women go back to corporate within the first year. Not because they couldn't build a business, but because the identity discomfort was too overwhelming. But here's the good news. Identity is not fixed. It's not something you were born with or permanently assigned. Identity is something you build layer by layer through your thoughts, your actions, and your daily choices. And you can start your building CEO identity right now, before you even hand in your notice. Now, let me give you the exact framework for building your CEO identity, starting today, whether you're still in corporate or already in your first year of entrepreneurship. CEO identity, a builder number 1. Change how you introduce yourself. This sounds simple, but it's profoundly powerful. Stop introducing yourself by your corporate title. Start introducing yourself by your entrepreneurial identity. Instead of, I'm a marketing manager at XY company, try, I'm a marketing strategist who helps small businesses grow their online presence. Instead of, I'm an HR director, try, development specialist who help organizations build high-performance teams. Every time you introduce yourself in your entrepreneurial identity, you are reinforcing that identity in your own mind. You are telling your brain, this is who I am, and your brain starts to believe it. CEO identity builder number 2. Make decisions like a CEO. CEOs make decisions. They don't wait for permission. They don't seek endless validation. They don't postpone decisions until they have perfect information. Start practicing CEO decision-making in small ways. Make decisions quickly and confidently. Trust your judgment. Accept that some decisions will be wrong, and that's okay. CEOs make mistakes and course correct. Keep the decision journal. Every day, write down one decision you made without seeking approval. One action you took without waiting for permission. One choice you made based on your own judgment. This builds evidence that you can trust yourself. CEO identity number 3. Invest in yourself like a CEO. CEOs invest in their development. They hire coaches, attend masterminds, read avidly, and continuously upgrade their skills and thinking. Start investing in yourself now. Buy the course, hire the coach, attend the event. Every investment you make in your development is a declaration that you are serious about your CEO identity. Commit to learning something new about entrepreneurship every single day. A podcast episode, a book chapter, a masterclass. You're not just learning skills, you are building the knowledge base of a CEO. CEO identity builder number 4. Create your CEO morning ritual. How you start your morning sets the tone for your entire day. Employee mornings are reactive. You wake up and immediately respond to everybody's demands. CEO mornings are proactive, and you set the agenda before anyone else can. Your CEO morning rituals might include journaling about your vision and goals, reviewing your priorities for the day, reading or listening to something that expands your thinking, and setting your intentions for how you want to show up. This ritual anchors your CEO identity every morning before the world tries to pull you back into employee mode. It's a daily declaration that you are the architect of your day, not just a responder to it. CEO identity builder number 5. Surround yourself with other CEOs. You become like the people you spend most time with. If you spend all your time with employees, you'll think like an employee. If you surround yourself with entrepreneurs and CEOs, you start thinking like one. Join entrepreneurial communities. Attend business events. Find a mastermind group. Follow entrepreneurs on social media instead of just corporate influencers. Immerse yourself into entrepreneurial mindset until it becomes your default. CEO identity builder number 6. Build your own expertise publicly. CEOs are visible. They share their expertise. They take up space. They position themselves as authorities in their field. Employee identity hides. CEOs' identity shows up. Start sharing your expertise publicly on LinkedIn, on social media, in conversations. Write about what you know. Speak about your experience. Position yourself as an expert before you feel like one. Now let me show you what CEO identity actually looks like in practice, because it's one thing to understand it conceptually, but another thing to live it daily. CEO identity thinks in possibilities, not limitations. When faced with a challenge, the employee asks, "Why is this happening to me?" The CEO asks, "What can I learn from this and how do I move forward?" CEO identity takes full responsibility. No blaming the economy, the market, the clients, or the circumstances. CEOs own their results, good and bad, and use that ownership to create better outcomes. CEO identities operates from abundance. There are enough clients, enough opportunities, enough success for everyone. Employee identity operates from scarcity. There's only so much to go around, and you need to protect your peace. CEOs think like long-term. They make decisions based on where they want to be in 5 years, not just what feels comfortable today. Employee identity thinks short-term. What's my next paycheck? My next promotion? My next performance review? The CEO identity is resilient. When things go wrong, and they will, the CEO bounces back, learns, and keeps moving forward. Employee identity catastrophize everything. One bad man feels like the end of the world. Here's a practice I give all my clients. Every morning ask yourself, am I showing up as an employee or as a CEO today? If the answer is employee, identify one specific shift you can make to show up as a CEO instead. Here's what happens when you consistently build your CEO identity. Your decisions get bolder. Your actions get more strategic. Your results get bigger. Your confidence grows. And eventually, you don't have to think about it anymore. CEO is just who you are. Most women experience a significant identity shift within 90 days of persistently applying these practices. It's not instant, but it's faster than you think. And every day you practice, you are building a foundation for the business and the life you deserve. Beautiful souls, I want you to understand something profoundly. Your business can only grow as far as your identity allows. If you're trying to build a CEO business with an employee identity, you will hit the ceiling every time. The most important investment you can make in your business isn't in your marketing, your website, or your systems. It's in your identity. Because when you become the CEO version of yourself, everything else falls into place. I'm giving you permission to start showing up as a CEO right now. Not when you quit your job. Not when you get your first client. Not when you hit 6 figures. Right now, today, in this moment. Here's what I want you to do this week. Change how you introduce yourself. Make one bold decision without seeking approval. Start your CEO morning ritual. And join one entrepreneurial community where you can surround yourself with people who think like CEOs. Send me a message and tell me about one way you're going to upgrade your identity this week. What's the one thing you're going to do differently that show up as a CEO version of yourself? Remember, beautiful souls, you don't become a CEO when you register your business. You become a CEO when you decide to think, act, and show up like one. That decision can happen right now, before you quit, before you launch, before you even have a single client. Thank you for listening, beautiful souls. See you next week for another dose of truth, boldness, and transformation.